What did I miss? When I was looking at y'all and cooking with y'all and giving out verses and booking.
How do? I'm officially in my vlogger era. I got a new camera, so I was putting together my first meal of the day. I'm on a high carb day today. I'm gonna go and train some legs, and I thought to myself, you know what? There's no time like the present. See if I can get some good footage for you guys, give you some insight on what it looks like to actually properly prep a full day of eating to actually move the needle forward. So if you kind of tapped into my Instagram, you know that I'm pretty much eating high carb right now because with my current protocol, I got a pretty aggressive amount of carbs right now. See if I can get that to focus. Yeah, because I'm leveraging Slin right now within my current cycle. I'm just a little over a week in. So yeah, it's about 4,200 calories, 600 grams of carb. All right, so next up, we got meal 2. This is gonna be the pre-workout meal, which is 300 grams of jasmine rice and 150 grams of 93.7 lean ground turkey. What I like to do for my pre-meal, pretty self-explanatory. I just like to keep carbs moderate to where I'm still getting enough glycogen storage to train, but to where it's not gonna completely stunt my digestion, right? Because what happens when I put down too big of a meal pre-workout, like 60 to 90 minutes before I go train, all that blood is going to my stomach to digest that food. Okay, I'm sure you've heard many bodybuilders mention this. Okay, it's just not optimal when you're experiencing GI distress when you're trying to train maximum output, right? Especially when you're training something like legs. It's just not ideal. So this here keeps things moderate, gives me enough glycogen storage to go in there and do what I need to do without hindering my session, simply put. And yeah, I cook my rice in bulk in the rice cooker and keep it in the fridge. Are you supposed to do that? Absolutely not. Sue me. I've been doing it for like 6 years now. Never had an issue. What I do, I got the $40 Amazon rice cooker here. The old Black & Decker. I cook that up in bulk, whatever it may be. Like 6 to 8 cups on average. Keep it in the fridge, lasts me a few days. And then after it's done cooking, I just fluff it up a little bit so it doesn't give enough room for bacteria to form when it's all compacted in the pot. So it is what it is, man. I haven't experienced too many issues doing it. So I'm gonna keep doing it, simply put. Yeah. When I'm coming down to a situation to where I'm working toward a specific goal, I'm not playing around, especially when you're self-coaching. These are the metrics that you need to have in play if you actually want to move the needle forward and see progress. I'm a huge advocate of data. I go by the expression, if you don't measure metrics, you can't move forward. So it's essential to ensure that you're actually tracking and doing what you need to do, especially when it comes down to your macros. This is where like 90% of you fall short. And I can guarantee that. I see it with every single guy I have conversations with on the daily. Even my clients, when they come on board, the change is so drastic the second a structure is put in play. And then that's where you come to the realization, man, I'm leaving a lot on the table by just trying to do shit intuitively, or just try to go about food on a calories in, calories out approach. It's not optimal. Usually my mornings consist mostly of client work. So I'll have clients that'll check in on mostly Saturdays to Mondays. And then I have the odd client who will check in like periodically throughout the week, mostly on Tuesdays. So I try to keep client check-ins pretty well within one window to where each day is consecutive. It just allows me for a few more days out of the week just to tie up any loose ends that I may have within the business. But that said, when I actually walk through my clients' check-ins, everything's comprehensive. I'm doing a full Loom video breakdown for them just to ensure that there's not only an interactive element, they're also fully clear on what's going on, right? Like there's not just some one-off like text message and whatnot. I'm just kind of like breadcrumbing them through text, especially with lifestyle guys. There's a bit more detail that goes into coaching them, right? It may be a little bit different with prep clients or guys who are a bit more competitive, who already have an idea on how to implement whatever I'm coaching them to do, right? But when it comes down to lifestyle guys, there's a reason that they're working with me, simply put. So I do whatever I need to do to ensure that the connection with me and my clients, or the coach-client relationship, as interactive as possible. Okay, like I get on one-to-one calls with my clients, everything of that nature. Okay, there's just way more variables that are tied into coaching a lifestyle client. So yeah, usually my mornings will consist of that. And then usually throughout the rest of the day, That's where I'm doing pretty much a lot of my work on social media, doing whatever I need to do to hit my touch points with people who are reaching out to me, having conversations, shooting content first and foremost, as I'm doing right now. Yeah, it's like every single piece of content I've shot through pretty much both my social media pages and even my YouTube throughout the last 4 years since I started doing it was all through my iPhone every time. It was just now to when I decided to just go and upgrade and get into camera, just because it's a little bit more efficient with like filming videos that are long form, because I don't have a camera guy or nothing. I do everything myself. So I just got one of these little vlogger cameras that has the gimbal on the top. That way, just makes the footage a little bit more seamless. You're not having to play around with the camera. You can actually see what's going on. So I'm gonna do what I need to do to film a little bit more long form content, just for those of you who want to get an inside look on what I got going on, how I go my day to day, not only through like my own personal protocol, also just to give you an inside look on how I operate as a coach as well. The session took a little bit longer than I anticipated, but more or less, I'm gonna get into meal 3 here in a sec. But first and foremost, meal 3 is immediately post-workout after taking a little bit of something, because as a diabetic, I need to make sure I'm keeping on top of my insulin levels and my fasted blood glucose. So that's what I'm doing right now. Pretty much, I get everything going in that regard. What I like to do when I'm taking my insulin post-workout, I like to get a look at what my blood sugar's saying immediately after my session, because I just like to see what my baseline is before I implement it, to see how much my glycogen stores have depleted. So what I do is I take BG immediately post-workout just to get a read on it. I have been looking into getting a constant blood glucose meter. This way, it just gets it done. There's no piddling around and it's as accurate as possible. So right there, that's perfect. So right there, I want to be in that 5 marker. Get a baseline, and then what I do is I take my insulin immediately post-workout. I have about 100 grams of carb, and then when I get home, that's when I retest it just to see where I'm at. See how I'm beating that curve, like as it starts to peak. I don't need to get into detail on which type I'm taking and everything like that. That's for a totally different video, just at face value. That's kind of what it's looking like, just with regard to like my slim protocol as of right now and what I'm doing to ensure that I'm being pragmatic about it, obviously, but we're all set. Let's get into meal 3. I got 50 grams of carbolin, so 1 scoop of carbolin, 4 rice cakes, apple cinnamon, you already know what it is. I have a scoop of whey in here as well. And the goal behind that is just to try and get as many fast acting carbs in as possible. So I'm trying to get as much high glycemic carb intake in that short window, especially immediately post-workout when I'm doing what I'm doing with my current protocol. So this here, it's to tie me over, okay, as everything starts to spike with regard to the insulin. Then when I get home, I have my actual post-workout meal, and I try to do that all within a 90-minute window. As you go a little bit past that, that's when you start running into hypoglycemic territory, and that's not what you want to be doing. See you for meal 4. Usually what I like to do when I get back from the gym, I got a bit of a commute home from my gym, and what I like to do is just check my blood glucose one more time after I do my thing at the gym, if you know what I'm saying, as you just saw. Put down meal 3, and I just like to see where my levels are sitting, like my blood sugar levels, just before I get into meal 4 here, because what I like to mainly do with regard to this process is just ensure that I'm gathering any data that I can to just build a trend line. So what this helps me do is it helps me get like an accurate read on how I'm responding to the insulin spike, right? So as I compound more data, then it'll just kind of help me further refine my process and get a better idea on pretty much like down to the gram on carbs I like pretty much need to be consuming in order to accommodate to that insulin spike, really. So more or less, this is how I'm gonna go about it here. I'll just kind of get this last little test in. For all intents and purposes, I don't advise anybody do this. Like, I'm a little bit of extremist when it comes to being methodical and getting an understanding of like how I respond to things, like with how long I've been doing this. So like me personally, I've deliberately let myself go hypo just so I know what the symptoms feel like. So I know exactly what to look for, right? So it was done entirely intentionally, but now I know exactly how I feel when I'm going hypo. So yeah, more or less, I'll just get one last read on the BG here. after like the insulin window. And then always when you're taking your blood glucose and you're doing a test, you always want to wipe your finger like a couple times. I always ensure like my clients are doing the same thing. Sometimes those fluids can interfere with your reading and throw a false read. So right there, perfect. As you can see, like it's starting to peak now. So if I were to wait longer, that's where it would start to dip into hypoglycemic territory. The insulin needs the carbs to do what it's supposed to do, right, through that GLUT4. So more or less, that's where I want to be really. So that's how I time my insulin perfectly with regard to post-training, glycogen storage depleted. I'm pretty much in and around baseline. And then when I get home, like I retest where I'm at. Usually I try to shoot for like 40 minutes to test it. But in that said, I had a couple errands to run after the gym. So that's kind of where I'm at. So more or less, I'm like right in that perfect threshold to just start putting down meal 4. And that's what we want, nutrient partitioning to the max. So here, I don't know if you can see that, we got 400 grams jasmine rice, 150 grams of 93.7 lean ground turkey, and 140 grams of pineapple with a little bit of Valentina hot sauce. So with me, the Valentina, that's a friggin' non-negotiable condiment. I absolutely love that stuff. Like some people like Frank's, whatever it may be, Valentina is absolutely gas. So that's pretty much what you're looking at for me anyways. Not you specifically, but for me anyways, that's what I'm looking at when I'm getting into my training window right now, my current protocol. That's kind of like the key nuance and piece of info I wanted you to take away from this video, and just kind of what it looks like on a little bit more of a comprehensive protocol. Okay, a lot of guys, I feel like they fear monger when it comes to SLIN and implementing that into like a bodybuilding protocol, right? It's nuanced, but it's not as nuanced as you think. It's just these little details you have to keep on top of. And it's ensuring that you're just putting like the steps and details in place to ensure that you're not letting yourself friggin' run hypo. Simply put, when you start becoming negligent, when you start becoming negligent and you're friggin' not getting your carbs in and you're not timing that properly, like that's where you're gonna run into problems. Like for example, like I just said, if I had been putting around longer at the grocery store or whatever, and I got home too late, like that's where I'm like treading that territory where my friggin' blood sugar is gonna start friggin' dropping because the insulin's peaked out. Anyways, that's enough yapping. I'm gonna get into this and I'll see you for meal 5. And there you have meal 5. That's gonna be 150 grams of jasmine rice, 180 grams of chicken breast, 70 grams of avocado, I have 85 grams of broccoli slaw in there, 60 grams of salsa, and then 2 Dempster's whole wheat tortilla wraps. And then I'll break down the final day of the macros. That's just to give you an idea on what a full day of eating looks like for me and my current goal and protocol right now, and basically what a structure should look like for a day of eating. Right? Everything should be regimented. That's the takeaway from this video. And this is just what a high carb day looks like for me right now, sorry. So if I have the macros right here, I don't know if you can see that. That focuses in. I'll pop it up on the screen here too. So 4,238 calories, and that's what I'm looking at in just like a recomp baseline right now and what I'm getting after with my current cycle. Pretty well wraps that up. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you 100%. Be sure to leave a comment, any feedback, questions you have. I'll aim to respond to it, and then be sure to like the video and then subscribe to the channel as well so we can keep getting this going. And then I'm gonna put this down. It's getting a little bit late for me. I still got a bit of work to do and I gotta finish off my steps. So I'm gonna be going for a nice little walk after this. Have a good one.